This video, we're just going to take the nervous system, the system itself, and break it down. And so we're going to first break it down into the two main categories, and that is your central nervous system, and we're going to be abbreviating that as CNS, central nervous system. And your central nervous system consists of your brain and your spinal cord. And then you're going to see as we continue, there is a special neuron in there called an interneuron, and it is inside of your spinal cord. So the interneuron is there. So your brain, spinal cord, and interneuron are what makes up the central nervous system. Your peripheral nervous system is anything that may start in the brain, but anything that would go out to the rest of your body. So your peripheral nervous system, which we're going to label as PNS, is going to be like your cranial nerves. Now I know it says cranial nerves, which makes you think brain, but they actually come out of the brain region and go to other parts of your body. And we will be learning these 12 cranial nerves. They are part of the peripheral nervous system. And then you have 31 pairs of spinal nerves that actually leave the spinal cord and move on. So in your peripheral nervous system, which is where we're going to talk most about for this chapter, it can be divided into two other types of nerves. You have sensory nerves, or part of your sensory nervous system. So I'm going to put sensory neurons. And so sensory neurons are just what they sound like. They're going to sense things. If something gets hot, something gets cold. And so they're going to receive input. So that's important for you to know. Input from the outside environment are sensory. And I would like you to know, this is a word we're going to use. It's called afferent. They're an afferent neuron. Afferent is a neuron that is receiving information. It takes it to your spinal cord or to your brain. So those coming in, input, are afferent. Once they come in, they'll leave. Your brain will say, hey, quit touching that hot stove or something. Then we get to something called motor neurons. So motor means movement. So these are going to be one of your muscles. So these are going to be firing onto your muscles. So these are efferent with an E, efferent. So sensory or afferent, they're the input, and then the output are going to be your motor neurons. So I didn't make this up. I watched a Khan Academy and I thought this was really cool. He said the word same. And he did it, well, I did it like this. He didn't do it like this, but the word same. So you got sensory coming from the peripheral nervous system. Sensory is afferent. It's going in, and this is going to be your central nervous system, your brain, spinal cord. So sensory comes in, motor comes out. Motor is efferent. Sensory is afferent, going into your central nervous system, brain, spinal cord, and then coming out will be your motor, and those are efferent. It's a good way to learn that. A very good way to learn that. All right, so we learned on like your muscles, there's, different types. There's types that you have control of and the ones you don't have control of. So let's start here. We're going to do over here because this is the ones we're going to focus on first in chapter 10. So if you can control them, we know that they're skeletal muscles, and so they are called voluntary. You can raise your hand and volunteer to do something. And so that is part of your somatic nervous system. So your somatic nervous system. So your motor neurons, part of that somatic nervous system, these would be ones that you can control. So they're going to be voluntary. So moving your leg, etc. And so moving your arm, controlling your deltoid muscles. So these are going to be firing on your skeletal muscles. So again, we're talking about the neuron that would be firing on this muscle, not the muscle itself, because the muscle is not part of the nervous system. This would be a neuron that would fire on a skeletal muscle that allows you to move. Make sense? That is part of your somatic nervous system. And then the ones you don't control, they're called part of your autonomic nervous system in us. Autonomic. Auto means you don't control it. Automatically going to happen. And so these are going to be the involuntary. You can't really control those. And so we're going to see that they're going to be firing on the cardiac, and you're going to see them firing on smooth muscle. They also fire on glands. We're going to see them firing on some organs and stuff, but those are the main. So your motor, two flavors, ones you can't control, autonomic, ones you can, somatic. And then we'll end the year, but I'm going to go ahead and introduce them. Our last chapter, we go over the autonomic nervous system, which can be divided into the sympathetic nervous system and the parasympathetic nervous system. So parasympathetic. I'm going to misspell this. Okay. So neither one of these do you control, but they react, your body reacts depending on conditions of your life. So the way you can remember these, the difference is when you're under stress, so think of S for stress, your body will react a different way than when you're just like at peace. So when you're under stress, your body will do what's called the fight or flight reflex. So fight. So you're either going to fight or you're going to leave. So we're going to talk a lot about that. So which one undergo when be sympathetic nervous system, you can't really control that. Heart starts beating really fast, you start sweating, etc. So parasympathetic you also can't control, but they call that when you're at peace. And they call it P for peace. We call that rest and digest. That means your body is at rest, at peace, your heart rate goes down, and your body can enjoy the steak you just ate. So body's not going to be digesting the food if you're trying to run from a bear. So, all right, that's a breakdown of the nervous system, and we will be working our way through this.